We have here, learning objective number 5, determine the most profitable use of our constrained resources. Whenever and whoever you are, resources will be always limited. Tama? We live in a world of scarcity, such as business are saddled with the reality that operations are to be done in an environment of scarce resources. Although the level of resource scarcity varies from one organization to another, hindi magkakapareho. When limited resources of some types restrict a company's ability to satisfy demand, the company is said to have a constraint. Still, the challenge to management is to produce extraordinary results from scarce resources. Kahit maraming scarce resources, we still have objectives, goals, business is still going on. Tama? So, dapat nang move forward pa rin. The machine or processes that is limiting overall output is what we call bottleneck. It is the constraint. Kunyari, sa isang hospital. Sa hospital, meron diyang outpatient portion or room, meron diyang inpatient. Tama? Pag pumunta ka sa emergency room, sabi ng emergency room, we can accommodate 20. Okay? Patients. Okay. So, okay, 20. Ngayon, out of 20, meron doon sa 20 na yon, sabi natin, since emergency, meron doon 15 na kailangan ng immediate operation. Ngayon, pagdating sa ating operating room, meron lang tayong operating room natin is can accommodate. Okay, can accommodate 7 patients. So, anong gagawin natin doon? So, ma'am, 15 yung kailangan operahan, 7 lang yung operating rooms, doon ka magmamanage. Bakit? Nagkaroon kasi ng constraint. Kahit gusto mong maraming i-cater, yung company mo or yung business mo, hindi mo siya magagawa because of these bottlenecks. Kaya dito sa chapter na to is, or dito sa topic na to, we will be able to learn how to utilize, maximize profit given the constraint or the bottleneck that a company has. What are constraints of company? Example, money, unang-una, pera, resources yun eh. Machine hours. Siyempre, ang isang machine or isang operation sa isang company, meron yung limited number of hours or limited number of units na dapat niyang ma-produce sa isang araw. Kunyari, ang order ng client mo is 1,000 unit. Pero ang capacity lang ng iyong machinery is 700. So, yun pa lang, meron ka ng constraint kasi hindi mo makater yung 1,000 because the capacity of your machinery is only 700. Another is direct labor hours. Ma'am, direct labor hours, di po mag-hire po tayo ng marami. Yes, pwede yun. But then, ang mangyayari dyan, pwedeng full capacity na ang iyong warehouse or not warehouse, ang iyong operation, meaning hindi ganun kalaki yung warehouse mo para mag-hire ng maraming empleyado. Plus, if you will have the cost-benefit analysis is pag maraming empleyado, marami kang babayaran, okay, pwedeng tumaas yung cost ng product, which will have a direct effect on your profit. Another is supply of materials. Ma'am, bakit po constrain ang supply of materials? Because it is out of your hand. Ma'am, paano? Kasi third party yun. So, dapat dito, yung tinatawag natin sa cost accounting na magkaroon ng material management or direct materials management. In that way, maalaman mo kung kailan ka dapat mag-order, okay? Yung lead time, okay? Yung EOQ or economic order quantity, ilan ba dapat yung i-order mo every time na mag-order ka? to maximize to minimize the cost of ordering. So, isa yon, supply of materials and technology. Fixed costs are usually unaffected in this situation. So, the product mix that maximizes the company's total contribution margin should ordinarily be selected. A company should not necessarily promote those products that have a highest unique contribution margin. Since fixed cost is not affected by scarcity kasi fixed nga daw yan. So, hindi siya affected. So, ma'am, saan tayo magbe-base ng, kunyari, sa isang company, meron tayong tatlong products. Sa tatlong products na yon, saan tayo magbe-base ng, or alin yung ating pagbabasihan ng magbibigay sa atin ng pinakamalaking profit? Sabi, sa contribution margin daw. Look for the contribution margin of each product. Pero sinasabi dito that a company should not always choose the product with the highest contribution margin. Ma'am, bakit? Rather, total contribution margin will be maximized by promoting those products or accept those orders that provides, highest contribution margin in relation to constraining resources. Example, si product A, meron siyang contribution margin na 20. Si product B, may contribution margin siyang 15. Okay? So, product A, 20. Si product B, 15. So, in that way, wala pa tayong pinag-uusapan ng mga constraint resources. Sino ang gusto mong i-produce? Siyempre, si product A kasi mas malaki yung contribution margin niya. But, in case na merong constraint resources, look for the highest contribution margin per constraint resource. Ma'am, paano? Kunyari, ang constraint resource natin is direct labor hours. Si product A, nagkukonsume siya ng 1 hour to produce. Okay? Direct labor hour, 1 hour. Si product B, nagkukonsume siya ng 30 minutes to produce product B. So, per hour, ang constraint natin is direct labor hour. Per hour, magkano ang magiging income mo pag kay product A ka? Ma'am, 20. Kay B, magkano magiging contribution margin mo per hour? 30. Nakikita mo yung difference? Kanina, without the constraint, ang choose mo na ibenta or ang i-produce is product A. But because of the constrained materials or constrained resources, you choose product B because it gives you the highest contribution margin relating to the constrained resource. So 20, dito sa kabila, in 1 hour makakapagbigay ka na, or product B will give you a profit or contribution margin of 30. To optimize scarce resources, sales and production should be allotted to the product that gives the highest profit per scarce resource. So ito yung ating example. Si BTS Meal Company, yan, yung mga taga-BTS dyan, mga army, kaway-kaway, produces 2 products and selected data are shown below. So we have product 1 and product 2. So ang contribution margin natin kay product 1 is 24, for product 2 is 15. The current demand per week is 2,000 and 2,200. So ibig sabihin, ito yung order sa'yo ng client mo. 2,000 and 2,200. So contribution margin ratio is 40% and 30%. Ma'am, paano natin nakuha? We have 24 over 60 and 15 over 50. The processing time required on machine A1, so ito daw yung isang machinery na nagpo-produce ng both product. Kay product 1, it requires 1 minute. Sa product 2, it requires 0.5 minute or 30 seconds. 0.5 and then 1 minute. So ito yung mga other information. Machine A1 is the constrained resource. So yun daw process na yun kay machine A1. and is being used at 100% capacity. So 100%. There is an excess capacity in other machines. So nakita nyo, sa isang company, pag may pinasok kang, kunyari, pinasok ka na raw material sa production, pwedeng pumasok yan sa unang process. Kahit ilan ang ilagay mo kasi marami pang excess capacity. Pagdating dun sa bottleneck, in this case, si machine A1, 100% capacity na siya. Kahit marami yung input, magiging stagnant yan kay machine A1 kasi at full capacity na siya. A1 machinery or machinery A1 has capacity of 2,400 minutes per week. So ito yung tanong, should BTS Meal focus its effort on product 1 or product 2? Tanong, how many units of each product can be processed through machine A1 in 1 minute? So lagay natin dun sa group chat. Sige nga, sa ating box. Ano ang sagot dito? How many for each minute? Sagot dito ay, madali lang naman to, is letter B. Paano natin yon nakuha? 1 minute daw kasi, 1 unit and 2 units per product 1. Ma'am, paano nakuha yon? Product 1, isa, or gagamitin niya is 1 minute. Si product 2, 0.5 minute. So, in a minute, ang mapoproduce mo na product 1, isa, and for product 2 is dalawa. So, the answer is letter B. Yan. Another question. Ito po. What generates more profit for the company using 1 minute of machine A1 to process product 1 or using 1 minute of machine A1 to process product 2? Okay, anong sagot dito? Answer natin dito is product 2. Ma'am, paano? Product 1, in 1 minute, ang contribution margin niya is 24. So, each minute, it will generate $24. For product 2, ang contribution margin per unit niya is 15. And it uses 0.5 minutes. So, we have 15 times 2, 30. So, 30 is greater than 24. So, product 2 will generate more profit than product 1. The key is the contribution margin per unit of the constrained resource. So, paano natin gagawin yun? 24 divide by 1 and 15 divide by 50. So, the contribution margin per minute of the constrained resource or machine hour of A1 is $24 and $30. So, BTS Meal should emphasize product 2 because it generates a contribution margin of 30 per minute of the constrained resource, which is machine A1, relative to 24 per minute for product 1. BTS Meal can maximize its production margin by first producing product 2. Ang tanong kasi dyan, ma'am, may napili na po kasi ako si product 2. Si product 2 lang ba ang kailangan mong i-produce? Or siya na lang ang kailangan mong i-produce? Pwede. Kung ito yung ito yung rules. Unang rule, sabi, kunin mo yung pinakamalaking contribution margin per constrained resource. Ma'am, nakuha ko na. Product 2 yun. 30 per minute. So, okay. Next mong titingnan, meron bang demand limit? Ma'am, ano po yung demand limit? Yung sales limit? Baka kasi pag chinus mo si product 2, ma'am, product 2 na lang ang ipoproduce ko. Pwede yun kung walang demand limit. Pero kung merong demand limit, hindi pwedeng si product 2 lang ang iproduce mo. Bakit? Because in excess of the demand, hindi mo na yun mabebenta. Magkakaroon ka ng loss. So, yun ang titingnan mo. Meron bang demand limit? Yun yung rule number 2. Kung wala, go for the highest product which go for the product which give you the highest contribution margin per constrained resource. But if there's a demand limit, compute mo yung demand limit, and then the excess, go to the next product that gives you the highest or the higher contribution margin per minute. So, paano yon? So, weekly demand natin for product 2 is 2,220 units. So, ilan yung time required per unit nito? Ma'am, 1,100 minutes po. Ilan ba yung available minutes ni machine A1? Ma'am, meron po tayong 2,400 minutes na time available for A1. So, we have still excess 1,300 minutes ng machine for product 1. So, ilang units ang mapoproduce natin na product 1? Ilang minutes ba to produce product 1? Ma'am, 1 minute po. So, meaning, for this problem, you are to produce 2,200 units of product 2 and 1,300 units of product 1. So, according to the plan, we will produce 2,200 units of product 2 and 1,300 of product 1. The contribution margin looks like this. So, ang CM natin for product 1 is 24 while product 2 is 15. So, total contribution margin ni company is 64,200. So, yun yung ating mga steps. Step number 1, get the contribution margin. Step number 2, compute for the contribution margin per constrained resource. Sunod mong gagawin, before looking for the demand, lagyan mo na ng number. So, paano yung number? Gawin natin dito ha. Dito kasi yun yung ginagawa sa iba. Nandito yun. Di ba na-compute mo na yung contribution margin per unit? Ito. 24 and 15. Ito yung step number 1. Step number 2, get the contribution margin per constrained resource. So, meron ka ng 24 and 30. Step number 3, lagyan mo na po ito ng number, meaning yung prioritization. Alin yung number 1? Ito. Lagyan mo dito, 1. Dito, 2. Ma'am, bakit? Kasi minsan 3 products yan, minsan 4 na products. Depende sa ibibigay sa problem. So, in that case, hindi ka na malilitaw. Lagyan mo na agad dito ng tanda. We have here first and then second or 1, 2, kung meron pa man, pangatlo. So, yun yung third step mo. Fourth step, tingnan mo kung merong demand limit. Okay, nakita mo? Or napansin mo yun? Titingnan mo kung meron kang demand limit. In this case, si product 2, meron siyang demand limit of 2,200. And then, compute the excess. Okay? Or the excess number of minutes or excess resources para dun sa remaining products. In this case, meron tayong excess 1,300 minutes for product 1. So, in that way, you can now identify ilang units para dun sa remaining product. So, that is for the utilization of constrained resources. So, we have here objective number 6, determine the value of obtaining more of the constrained resources. Increasing the capacity of a constrained resource should lead to increased production and sales. Bakit? Siyempre, tinaasan mo yung constraint eh. Parang ganito lang yan. Kulang ka ng pera. Ngayon, nagkaroon ka ng mas maraming pera, di ba? Mas marami na yung resources mo. Ganun lang kasimple yun dito. Sa company, ganun din kasimple. If you will increase the capacity of your constrained resources, it will give you more sales and of course, profit. Also, syempre, simulan natin sa production. How much should, BTS dapat yan, be willing to pay for an additional minute of A1 machine time? Ang tanong kasi dito, di ba meron kang demand for product 1? Hindi mo na-meet yun. Ngayon, ang tatanungin sa'yo ng company, magkano kaya ang pwede kong ibayad for an excess, okay? Excess additional minute of A1 or magkano yung pwede mong i-invest for additional minute of A1. So, paano natin yon? The additional minute would be used to make more units of product 1. BTS should be willing to pay up to 24 per minute. Bakit 24 per minute? this is the amount equals the contribution margin per minute. Eh di ba parang wala siyang profit? Pwedeng ganon. This is just to accommodate yung ating demand from our clients. Nagigets natin? Pwedeng mas mataas, pwedeng mas mababa. Okay kung mas mababa. Ito ang tinatanong natin. Ito ha, hindi to minimum amount of how much we are going to pay. This is the maximum amount that the company is willing to pay for additional minutes or additional resources of the constraint resource. In this case, yung machine hours ni machine A1. So you are willing to pay $24 per minute of A1 because this is to accommodate the need ng ating client. Ma'am, pwede bang pwedeng ganon? Yes. Kasi ayaw mong masira sa mga kliyente mo. So maximum yung $24 ha. Pag ang ginawa mo, okay? Pag ang ginawa ng company ay mas mataas na 24, kunyari nagbayad siya 25, magkakaroon siya ng additional loss. So this is the maximum amount that you are willing to pay. So example natin dito, Colonial Heritage makes reproduction colonial furniture from selected hardwoods. So this is the information. So selling price is 80 and 400. Variable cost per unit is 30 and 200. The company supplier of hardwood will only be able to supply 2,000 board feet per month. Is this enough hardwood to satisfy demand? Yan. Sige nga. Enough ba daw yung 2,000 board feet? Because for chairs, you need 2 board feet. While for tables, you need 10 board feet. Enough ba daw yung 2,000 board feet for this month? Ating needed board feet for this demand or this monthly demand of 600 and 100, you need 2,200. But the company will able to supply only 2,000. So meron na agad tayong constraint. So anong gagawin natin sa constraint? So this is the next question. The company supplier of hardwood will only be able to supply 2,000. What plan would maximize profit? Alin daw dyan yung mix na magma-maximize ng profit? Sige nga, kung natutunan nyo yung ating unang discussion, parehas na parehas ang gagawin. Ano kaya yung perfect match para i-maximize natin yung profit natin? Compute. Nandyan yung given, hindi na natin ibabalik. Alin kaya dyan ang magbibigay sa'yo ng maximum profit? The answer is letter B. Ang naging problema, Ara, dun sa naging solution mo, okay? Tama naman yun. Sabi mo, ma'am, malaki po yung contribution margin ni tables. Yes, 200. Pero nandun na stuck ka dun sa ating step number 1. Remember, meron pa tayong step number 2. It is to compute the contribution margin per constraint resource. Ano ba yung constraint resource natin? Ma'am, si board feet. Step number 1, correct ka doon. Ito yon, yung 50 and 200. Step number 2, get the contribution margin per constrained resources, which is 25 and 20. Paano natin nakuha? I-divide mo lang dun sa constrained resource or the required number of units or number of constrained resources per units, which is 2 and 10. So we have 25 and 20. In this case, makikita mo na per board feet, mas malaki ang mabibigay sa iyo na profit or contribution margin ni chairs. So step number 3 natin is yung prioritization. So lalagyan mo dito, sa baba nito, wala na kasi dito sa solution natin na ibinigay, lagyan mo dito para hindi mawawala. At saka bilugan mo, lagyan mo 1, bilog, 1 and then 2. So after that, makukuha mo na ilan yung required number of constrained resources para dun sa naging priority mo. So sabi ni Erica, ma'am, 1,200 po ang kailangan natin. Ano nakuha yon? 2 times the demand 600. So, 1,200. So, ilan yung remaining para dun sa tables? 800. So, ilan bang board feet ang magagamit natin sa tables? 10. So, total 80. So, the correct answer is letter B. So, as before, colonial heritage suppliers of hardwood will only be able to supply 2,000 board feet for this month. Assume that the company follows the plan we have proposed. Up to how much should colonial heritage will be willing to pay above the usual price to obtain more hardwood? Magkano daw yung pwede mong ibayad kasi nga hindi mo na meet yung demand ng client mo, which is magkano ba, ilan ba yung demand natin? Ang demand natin ay 600 and 100. Kulang tayo ng ilan? Kulang tayo ng 20 kasi 80 lang yung ipoproduce natin. Tama? Letter B ang sagot natin. 80 lang mapoproduce natin. So, magkano daw yung willing to pay mo for each extra board feet? Ayan. For each board foot, ilan daw ang ibabayad mo para dun sa hardwood? Ang answer? Letter C. Tama si Erica. Joyce. Ang sagot natin is letter C. It is always, yan ha, ito maximum ang tawag diyan ha, maximum amount that you are willing to pay. Maximum is the $20. Kung saan natin nakuha si $20? That is the contribution margin. Ibabalik ko para mas maintindihan nyo. This is the contribution margin per board foot. Extra lang to ha. Extra, that is to accommodate the excess or the remaining orders ng table, which is 20 per board foot. So that is also the same amount that you are willing to pay or the maximum amount that you are willing to pay to obtain more board or more hardwood. So 20 ang sagot natin. Ma'am, paano kung may mag-offer po sa amin ng $18? E di i-grab mo na yon kasi ang maximum mo is 20. Naintindihan? Pwedeng may mga ganong questions eh. Tatanungin ka, paano daw pag merong if there is a third supplier or third party supplier that is willing to supply for the amount of, sabihin natin, sabi niya 25 per dollars, igagrab mo pa yon? Hindi na. Bakit? Because your maximum amount that you are willing to pay na hindi magbibigay ng loss sa company is $20. Ma'am, bakit $20? O, ganito i-explain ko lang. Ma'am, hindi lang dahil ito yung contribution margin natin. Bakit? Kasi pag nagbayad ka ng extra $20, ito rin po yung extra. Di ba dapat ang dapat mong i-produce 80 lang at saka 600, tama? 80 and 600. So meron kang excess na 20 tables, tama? Doon sa excess na 20 tables, meron yung contribution margin. Tama? Yung excess na contribution margin, i-equal mo lang yon doon sa magiging amount na kaya mong ibayad doon sa magiging supplier mo. Eh di ma'am, zero yung profit for the table? Yes. Eh di ma'am, nasayang yung oras, nasayang yung effort? Hindi. Kasi nabenta mo naman siya at the same price or at the same cost, yun nga lang wala kang profit. Tabla lang. Naintindihan? Kaya 20 ang pwede mong ibayad per board foot or excess board foot na ibabayad mo sa third party or the same supplier. Naiintindihan na? Yan. So that is for that, for managing constraint. So, ito yung mga dapat mong intindihin. It is often possible for manager to increase the capacity of bottleneck. Oo, pwedeng ganon. Which is called relaxing or elevating the constraint in numerous ways such as, una, working overtime on bottlenecks. Kunyari, ang bottlenecks natin is direct labor hours or labor hours. E di pa overtime mo yung mga laborers mo. Number 2, subcontracting. Ito yung ginagawa ng iba. Hindi na kaya ng production, ipapakontrata sa iba. Some of the processing that would be done at the bottleneck. Number 3, investing in additional machineries or machines at the bottleneck. Shifting workers from non-bottleneck processes to the bottleneck. 5, focusing business process improvement efforts on the bottleneck. And 6, reducing defective units process through bottlenecks. Kaya nga sa manage ng constraint or the scarce resource, dyan nagpo-focus ang management. Bakit? Dyan natitenga yung process mo. Pag dyan nagkaroon ng problema, lahat affected. Tama ba? Hindi ka magkakaroon ng finished products or yung budgeted or yung goal mo or yung objective finished products mo, hindi mo ma-attain kung dun sa constraint or the scarce resource, hindi mo siya ma-manage ng tama. So, let's move to objective number 10. So, that is for managing constraint. So, this is another topic. Tapos na tayo sa constraint. Ito, isang topic ulito for relevant costing. Prepare an analysis showing whether joint products should be sold at the split of point or process further. Ito yung mga klase ng products na marami yung end products pero iisang raw material ang input. Kunyari, coconut. Pumasok sa company mo, coconut yan, bilog. Nandun pa yung, anong tawag doon? Anong tawag doon sa shell ng coconut? Hindi yung hindi yung bao Ano nga yun? Husk. Nandiyan pa yung coconut husk, nandiyan pa yung coconut shell, yung mismong loob, and then yung sabaw. So, pumasok sa company mo as coconut. Paglabas niyan, pwedeng maraming products. Yun yung tinatawag nating joint products. A number of end products are produced from a single raw material input. Ma'am, ano po yung relevant or differential analysis natin dito sa mga ganitong klase ng product? Ito lang. Should we process it further? Or pwede na ba natin siyang ibenta at split off? Kunyari, from the bilog na coconut, nahati mo na. Meron ka ng bao, meron ka ng coconut husk, meron ka ng laman, at meron ka ng buko juice. So meron kang 4 na products. Ang tanong, should we process the 4 products more? Or pwede na natin siyang ibenta at split off? Yun yung ating bibigyan ng attention dito sa topic na to. 2 or more products produced from a common input are called joint products. The point in the manufacturing process where each joint product can be recognized as separate product is what we call the split off point. So, example natin dito. Yung joint input, meron siyang mga common production process. Isang raw material, example natin is petroleum refining industry. A large number of products are extracted from crude oil. So, ang joint input natin, crude oil. So, ito, mag-undergo ng common process. Itong crude oil. Magkakaroon yan, hindi lang naman iisang process yan. Pwedeng 3, pwedeng 4. Ngayon, magkakaroon ng split of point or magkakaroon ng process in which pwede mo nang ma-separate si oil, si gasoline, and other chemicals. Dun sa point na ma-separate mo na si oil, si gasoline, and chemicals, that is what we call split of point. What is the question in this chapter? Should oil, at this split of point, pwede na ba natin siyang ibenta as is? Or should we process further? Ma'am, paano process further? From the chemicals, gagawa tayo ng asphalt or other organic chemicals. So, yun yung tinatawag natin processing further. Katulad nito, from oil, nagkaroon ka ng separate processing. Hindi nakaparehas process na ginawa mo sa chemicals and gasoline. So, sa oil, nag-process further ka. So, meron kang final sale. So, magkakaroon ka dito ng final product from that oil. Kung ano man tawag dun sa final product na yun. Sa gasoline, dito daw sa product na to, si gasoline, hindi mo na daw siya pre-process further. Ibig sabihin, at split off, naging gasoline siya, binenta mo as gasoline. Doon naman sa chemicals, okay? Doon sa chemicals is, nagkaroon ka ng separate processing. Okay? Nagkaroon ng separate processing or processing it further. So, nagkaroon tayo ng final product from that chemicals. So, dito mo makikita alin sa mga product ang dapat mong i-process further or ibenta at split off. Ma'am, paano natin yun i-decide? Or paano tayo magde-decide kung magkakaroon tayo ng processing further or selling it at split off? Joint costs are traditionally allocated among different products at split off point. A typical approach is to allocate joint costs according to relative sales value. Although allocation is needed for some purposes such as balance sheet, inventory valuation, allocation for this kind are very dangerous for decision making. Bakit? Joint costs are irrelevant in this. Wag muna tayo dyan. Ma'am, bakit dangerous yung pag-allocate ng joint cost? Ma'am, alin po ba yung joint cost? Ito. Yung mga cost na na-incur mo during the common production process. Since joint cost siya, paano natin siya i-allocate? Ang sabi, most likely relative sales value of the end products. Aling end product? Yun po bang at split off or yung final sale or final product? Most likely, ito estimation to ng company. Kaya nga sinasabi, very dangerous. Kasi ito is allocation, wala tayong definite amount. Magkano ba talaga ang nagastos para sa oil, sa gasoline, and chemicals because they undergo in common production process. So, ang ginagawa at split off point. Sales at split off point. Huwag mo munang tingnan mag-ilan yung final sale mo after processing it further at split off point. Yan. So, yun, dun ina-allocate yung joint cost. But guys, in this chapter, joint cost is irrelevant. Ma'am, bakit? Because ang pinag-uusapan natin, should we process it further or sell at split off? Nasaan po ba yun, ma'am? Ang pinag-uusapan natin, decision making, eto na. Etong box na to. Tapos na tayo sa joint cost, na-incur na yan. Ang itinatanong natin dito sa relevant or differential analysis, ipaprocess further ba siya or ibibenta at split off? Ganun lang siya kasimple. Ito, irrelevant na sa decision making, tapos na kasi siya. Meron na tayong product at split off point. So, what to do with the product from split off point forward? Therefore, this cost should not be allocated at the end products for decision-making purposes. With respect to sell or process further decision, it is profitable to continue processing a joint product after the split off point so long as the incremental revenue from such processing exceed the incremental processing cost incurred after the split off. Ito po yung determining factor, yung naka-red. If you are to process further or not. Ma'am, paano malalaman if we are going to process further or not? Pag mas malaki daw yung incremental revenue kaysa dun sa incremental cost, edi process further. Pag vice versa, edi sell at split off. Ganun kasimple. Paano? Balik natin. Pag pre-process further natin at nabenta mo siya, eto ha, tapos na tayo dito. Wag, sabi, irrelevant daw yung cost dito ha, wag mo na yung isipin. So, anong gagawin mo? Compute for the incremental revenue. Ma'am, ano yung incremental revenue? Kunyari, si oil. At split off, mabibenta mo siya ng 20. Processing it further, mabibenta mo siya ng 30. So, ilan yung incremental revenue natin? 10. Ulitin ko. At split off, the sales selling price is 20. After processing it further, ang selling price na is 30. How much is your incremental revenue? 10. Next, incremental expense daw. Yung joint cost, yung allocated cost ni oil, hindi na yon relevant. Ngayon, after separate or processing it further, meron kang additional cost na 5. Or sabihin natin 7 pesos. Sabihin natin 7 pesos. Na yung 7 pesos per unit na processing it further, i-compare mo dun, yun yung tinatawag na incremental cost. I-compare mo yung kay incremental revenue. Incremental revenue natin kanina is 10, less incremental cost of 7. Magkano yung net? Positive daw. Meron tayong incremental revenue or profit na 3. Meaning, process further. Ganon kasimple. Pag negative yung result, sell at split off. Naiintindihan? Ganon lang yan kasimple. Lagyan natin na example. Sawmill Incorporated cuts logs from which unfinished lumber and sawdust are the immediate joint products. Unfinished lumber is sold as is or processed further into finished lumber. Sawdust can also be sold as is to gardening wholesaler or processed further into presto logs. So, dalawa daw yun. Ano daw yung ating unfinished products? Lumber and sawdust. So, ito daw yung sales value at split off. 140 and 40. Sales value after processing further, tinan mo, tumaas. 270, 50. Allocated joint product. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung cost before split off. So, na-allocate mo 176 and 24. Cost of processing further, 50 and 20. So, paano natin masasabi alin yung ating ipaprocess further or hindi? Ganito lang kasimple. Look for the, sabi nga natin, incremental revenue and incremental cost. How much is your sales after processing? 270 at split off 140. So, magkano incremental revenue? 130 and 10. How much is your incremental cost? Balikan natin yung given. Dito sa given natin, meron siyang 176 and 50, 24 and 20. Tingnan mo, maigi yung wordings, ha? Tingnan mo, maigi yung wordings. Allocated joint product cost. Ito yung cost before split off. Cost of processing further, cost after split off. In this way, makikita mo na wala kang ima-minus, guys, ha? Bakit? Ito na po yung incremental cost. Kasi this is the cost of processing further. Kaya dun sa ating computation, ganito siya. This is your incremental cost, 50 and 20. Your incremental revenue is 130 and 10. So you have here profit or loss from processing further, 80 and 10. Ibig sabihin, the lumber should be processed further and the sawdust should be sold at split off. So, ano po yung ating tatandaan for sell or process further? Ito lang kasimple. Ganyan lang po. Okay? Minimum sales price after processing further. Unit sales price at split off. Unit variable cost of subsequent processing, incremental fixed cost, this is your minimum sales price after processing. Balikan natin. Ito, pabalik po ito, ha. Itong pinakita ko dito, this is pabalik. Pwede kasing itanong din ito sa problem. Magkano yung minimum selling price after processing further? So, paano natin kukumputin? This is your selling price at split off. Lagay natin so sales price at split off, additional variable cost of processing further, and incremental fixed cost of processing further. And then, this is your minimum selling price. So, ibalik natin doon sa given. How much is your selling price at split off? 140. Ibalik natin, ha. 140. Cost of processing further, 50. So 140 plus 50, magkano? 140 plus 50. 140 plus 50, you have 190. So magkano yung minimum price of selling price of processing further? The minimum selling price of processing further is 190. Pero nakita mo 270. Oh, doon pa lang, process further ka. Okay? Nakita mo pabalik yung ginawa nating process? Ang naging minimum selling price dito natin is 190. Doon sa given, 270 siya. E di process further. O, but tingnan natin dito. Magkano daw yung ating selling price at split off? 40 po, ma'am. Cost of processing further, 20. So 40 plus 40 plus 20, 60. So 60 yung minimum selling price natin. Eh magkano ba dun sa given? Ma'am, 50. Oh. Sell at split off. So ito yung pabalik na way kasi pwedeng yan, ganito yung tanong sa problem. Okay? Last learning objective natin dito. Hindi pa pala, meron pang isa. Wait lang. Meron pa atang isa. Tama. Prepare an analysis showing whether operation should be continued or be shut down. Okay? Ito yung continue or shut down. Ma'am, saan nangyayari to? This is done for products na seasonal or cyclical or with random variations. Example natin yung mga Christmas decors. Hindi katulad sa ibang may country na year-round ang Christmas sa kanila. Pero dito sa atin, hindi naman year-round. Every December lang yung Christmas. Or yung Christmas season, nagsisimula yan ng bare months. So, ma'am, anong gagawin natin dun sa production natin na hindi bare months? So, from January up to August, ano po yung ipoproduce natin or anong gagawin natin? So, dyan tayo magpapasok. Should we continue our operation or shut down temporarily? There are months in a year where businesses in a given economy experience slowdowns caused by natural, psychological, or environmental operations or conditions. So, ano yung magiging decision triggering natin sa decision? If operations are temporarily shut down, the business will still lose because of the shutdown cost. Kahit itigil mo yung operation from January to, sabi natin, ma'am, January meron pang Christmas decor. Okay, sige. Sabi natin February to August. Kahit i-shutdown mo yung operation natin, meron pa rin pong cost. Bakit? May cost. Sumusweldo pa rin naman yung mga regular employees mo. May warehouse ka pa rin. Nagre-rent ka pa rin. May machineries ka pa rin na nasa warehouse mo or nasa operation mo. And so on and so forth. Yun yung tinatawag nating shutdown cost. Cost incurred even after operations are temporarily stopped are called shutdown cost. If continuing the operation will result to greater than the slowdown or the shutdown point, it is better to continue operating and be spared of more losses from discontinuing operation. Ma'am, anong ibig sabihin? Since meron tayong tinatawag na shutdown cost, yun yung cost incurred na naka-shutdown. Kunyari, ang compute na shutdown cost total per month is 900,000. So, ang laki. Titingnan mo. If continuing the operation ay magbibigay sa iyo ng mas better or mas malaking or mas mababang loss. Kunyari, pag kinontinue ko yung company or yung operation, ang magiging loss ko lang per month is 700. Alin ang mas pipiliin ko? Mag-shutdown or mag-continue? Alin ba mas gusto mo? 900 na loss or 700 na loss? Ma'am, ayoko ng loss. Hindi nga pwede. Kasi yun yung pinag-uusapan natin dito eh. I-continue natin or i-shutdown kasi nga seasonal yung iyong operation or yung company mo. Magko-continue ka, 700 yung loss mo. Pag magsha-shutdown ka, 900 yung loss mo. So, ano ang gugustuhin mo? Ma'am, continue na lang. Yun yung pinag-uusapan natin dito. Which is less evil. Okay? Alin yung mas less yung impact sa'yo? Kahit loss yan, doon ka pa rin. So, ma'am, paano natin yon i-compute? Ito po yung bibigay kong shortcut sa inyo. To determine the shutdown point, kasi kailangan mo malaman eh. Ano yung amount ng sales or yung tinatawag nating shutdown point? Paano ko malalaman, ma'am, yung shutdown point ko? Kung i-continue ko ba siya or isa-shutdown? Ito yung equation. Tingnan maigi yung equation. Explain natin maigi. Shutdown point is equals to ganito. Yung loss from continuing equals loss from discontinuing. Pag equal yan, yun yung tinatawag nating shutdown point. Paano yun? Loss from continuing is computed as contribution margin minus fixed cost. Imaginein mo ito. Ma'am, bakit ganon? CM minus fixed cost is what is equals to profit or loss, tama? So, ito yung loss from continuing. Contribution margin minus fixed cost. Ano naman yung loss from discontinuing? Zero. Ma'am, bakit zero? Minus shutdown cost. Bakit zero? Zero ang sales mo. Wala kang contribution margin. Kaya, loss from discontinuing equals zero minus shutdown cost. Balik tayo dito sa unang equation. Loss from continuing equals loss from discontinuing. So, lagay natin dito sa equation. CM minus fixed cost equals 0 minus shutdown cost. So, palawakin natin yung ating equation. We have quantity sold. Yung QS natin is quantity sold. Times contribution margin per unit equals CM, di ba? Quantity sold times CM per unit equals CM. Minus fixed cost. So, equals 0 minus shutdown cost. So, we have here, quantity sold times contribution margin unit. Ibinalik mo sa kabila. Inilipat mo. Inilipat mo sa kabila yung fixed cost. So, fixed cost minus shutdown cost. Nakakasunod pa? Para lang ma-explain ko ha, ito kasi yung formula for shutdown cost. Kinuha lang natin dito. So, quantity sold or the shutdown point equals fixed cost minus shutdown cost over CM per unit. Baka po kasi, meron kayong makita sa libro na ganitong formula. Isa natin nakuha yan, ma'am. Ito po yung pinagkuhanan niyan. Shutdown point is equals to loss from continuing equals loss from discontinuing. At that point, that is what we call shutdown point. So, ano yung formula? Ito po. Fixed cost minus shutdown cost over CM per unit. That is your shutdown point. Next learning objective, determining indifference point. Parang shutdown point din po yung indifference point. Pag sinabi nating indifference point, it is where the outcome of alternative is the same. Kahit alin ang piliin mo among alternatives, parehas yung profit and loss. Kaya tawag sa kanya indifference point. Kaya nga si shutdown point is also an indifference point. Bakit? Parehas yung result nila. Loss from continuing equals loss from discontinuing. So shutdown point is also an indifference point. So sa ibang problem kasi hindi lang naman continue or shutdown ang pinag-uusapan or hinihingan sa'yo ng indifference point. Meron ding ibang problem. Regardless of choices, it will arrive at the same profit or loss. Examples of indifference point computations are break-even point. Ma'am, bakit break-even point is indifference point? Siyempre, at break-even point, break-even ka nga eh. Walang profit, walang loss. Regardless of your choices, parehas ang result. Zero. Kaya break-even point is also an indifference point. Shutdown point, yung sinabi ko kanina. Economic order quantity or EOQ and internal rate of return. So, ano na nyo naman yan eh. Ano yan kasi, case-to-case basis ang indifference point. So, that ends chapter 7 or the relevant costing.